Up next is the panel discussion on transformative business outcomes with hyper automation, AI, RPA, process analytics. And to moderate this session, we have Nivedita Ratakonda. She is the CEO of Big Light Innovation. Nivedita is an executive with a deep technology background and vast experience ranging from network technologies to cybersecurity to virtual reality. Joining her on the panel is Mr. Sunil Reddy, Managing Director, Dodla Dairy, Mr. Manish Bharti, President, India and South Asia for UiPath, and Mr. Venkat Varadarajan, Head Cloud and Web Tech Business in Dell India. Welcome, panel. Welcome, Nivedita. We're looking forward and excited for your session.
Thank you, Akriti. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. This is a session on driving transformative business operation outcomes using hyperautomation. An excellent topic, a new technology, and it's and this is a technology that's, according to Gartner, a trending technology multiple years in a row. We have a very esteemed panel here who will bring in both the technology perspective and the customer perspective. It's my pleasure to welcome our panel members, Mr. Manish Bharti, Mr. Sunil Reddy, and Mr. Venkat Varadarajan. Thank you for being here. The goal of this session is to introduce a concept of hyperautomation, enable entrepreneurs to think about new or existing products in the space, and I really appreciate the panel members' time, taking their time out to attend and be a part of the TiE Global Summit. We have on the panel Mr. Manish Bharti, who's the President, India and South Asia at UiPath. He's responsible for overseeing all business and technology units in this region. He has been the MD of Sales and VP Global Accounts, where he has been instrumental in setting up field sales and business structure for establishing UiPath as a RPA market leader locally and globally. He has over 22 years of global experience, sales experience, and delivery experience across a diverse portfolio of industries like healthcare, airlines, retail, BFSI, and so on. Thank you, Mr. Manish Bharti, for being here. Appreciate your time. Mr. Sunil Reddy is a managing director of Dodla Dairy. He is an engineer by education and entrepreneur by choice. He started Dodla Dairy in 1998 in an industry completely new to him and grew it to a significant operating revenue. They currently operate in India and Kenya, and I am a customer of Dodla Dairy, so I've enjoyed his products quite a bit. He's responsible for setting up our the business strategy for the company with a focus on accountability, competitive performance, and value creation. Thank you so much for coming in on the panel, Mr. Sunil Reddy. Venkat is the head and cloud web tech business, head of cloud and web tech business in India, and manages the business for Intel India. In his role, he helps customers across e-commerce and mobile payment, SaaS, and cloud in the digital journey. We are looking forward to talking to you, Venkat, on the technical aspects of AI and how it fits into the whole hyper automation space.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for coming on the panel. So I will start with an introduction to the whole the topic. So let's start with a primary technology which is called robotic process automation. So RPA has been one of the fastest growing software category in the world. The beauty of it really is that anyone from a business expert to a frontline worker with really minimum or no technical skills can actually automate very low level and repetitive digital tasks. That has been the ease of use of RPA has actually accelerated its growth in the enterprise. Now, so corporations worldwide are embracing automation strategies such as RPA more than ever. This has been, the only problem is this has been sort of in a siloed manner without a comprehensive process-centric transformation. So though you've been automating small parts of the process, you really need a comprehensive strategy is what's been found out. So studies show that businesses only reach their true potential for exponential growth when processes are automated strategically, right? So for enterprises to scale RPA, there is a real need to combine multiple automation and AI technologies that today are considered actually separately, right? So we really have to bring these set of technologies together, and this toolbox that we're talking about and the set of technologies together is what is called hyperautomation. So this set of technologies brought together is what is going to be transformative for enterprises. So let's take a step back I'd like to talk a little bit about RPA and what it has impacted and how it's impacted the enterprise. So, Mr. Sunil Reddy actually has implemented RPA, and he has been fearlessly adopting technology in an industry considered a laggard. Okay, so I'd like to hear from him about what is a primary motivation for RPA implementation in his case, and what are the benefits that he sees in his industry.
Thanks, Nivedita, for the introduction. And the reason why we went for RPA is as a business that we are in, is the procuring of milk and processing and distributing milk. We deal with an enormous volume of people. For example, we deal with around 80,000 to 100,000 farmers a day, where we test the milk morning and evening, and payment is made based on the test that we do, and payments are made to them once in every 10 days. So very quickly to bring it to what is the use for us, we have automated 15 processes, out of which I'll only talk of maybe one, which is our procurement that we have done and see what benefit we have. In the 15 processes that we have automated, we have saved close to 1,250 man hours in a month, and we have been able to get 60% reduction in process time and almost 100% accuracy. It was not there earlier. So when I look at it as payment to be made, so when I bring it to procurement, like I told you guys, when we had the ability to do 80,000 to 100,000 farmers, we now pay them on a daily basis by verifying. So the RPA process actually goes through the whole information on a daily basis, verifies the variance, and throws out what is the variance, sends it directly to the respective operating person on the ground, and he is able to react quickly and not wait for a month to pass or 15 days to pass and then becoming more of a problem. With that, what is enabled us is when we need to grow now, no longer is the size of the people or the data an issue. But the challenges we faced is to get the data first. RPA will then be able to sit on the data. So the challenge was to get the data to come into place, to get the data to flow, the cost of the equipment that comes in, how do we put it together? The benefits have been enormous. As I said, when you come to accuracy, if you look at the variation in what we purchase with 100,000 farmers to what we receive at our end, it's almost like a seamless operation now that it is being done. So that is why I consider it as a very useful tool to go forward. And the other areas where we have done from banking to payment to cash management, we have done a lot of other stuff. But I think from a large data point of view, this has been very, very useful for us, and it makes us more fearless to go into more operations and get more efficient. Although I started it by saying manpower saving, that does not mean manpower became redundant. We have now extremely well qualified manpower, therefore we can go take on a lot more than good quality people doing monotonous work. So that is our biggest benefit that we've got. Other than the money saved in terms of manpower and the efficiency is one. Being able to utilize manpower more effectively and becoming more useful has become the other. That's it.
Thank you. So just to summarize, I think you've focused on accuracy and the quality of the operation, and that's one of the key drivers of RPA adoption. Thank you so much. I would like to, I think the audience would be really interested to know how this technology, our robotic process technology, has actually evolved over the years. Sorry, I think I went ahead a little bit. So we're coming back to our hyper automation technology, right? Hyper automation is really a set of technologies called RPA, analytics, AI, and ML. And if you really look at the three of them, they're called the AAA trifecta. And you need to put all of these together to bring about process transformation. So Venkat is an expert in the AI space in Intel. So I'd like to understand from him, how does AI actually complement RPA in the automation of processes? It's become now inevitable to use AI as a part of the whole toolbox. So can you explain that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely, Nivedita. Thanks for the question, right? So if you take a step back and then look at artificial intelligence as a field, right? You go to Facebook and then automatically suggests the name of the image or the person on the picture, and then you can ask Alexa a question, and then it kind of understands what question, and then it plays the music that you want, right? So there are these elements of image processing, natural language processing, etc., right? So these are useful for companies like Facebook or Instagram, or these large companies processing video
Looks like a glitch. Just hang in there.
And then you take a step back. How do sure? Is it
There was
okay
a
now?
little bit of a glitch, Venkat. Yeah, you can just repeat the last sentence.
Sure. Yeah. If it gets better, it's okay. But otherwise, I can like join back. Yeah. So I was saying, if you're a large organization like a Facebook or Amazon, right? You have this huge amount of data for video analytics or image recognition, etc. Right? But then if you flip the question and then ask, hey, if you're a small and medium enterprise, right? How do I use AI? That's where the combination of AI and the RPA comes into play, right? I'll give you a few examples, right? So if let's say like you are a small and medium business, you are going to file GST, right? And then you have the software that kind of automates the tax filing process that involves huge amount of images and PDF files, right? So when you apply AI on those documents, on those images, right, it gives you a sense of clarity on what is missing, what more needs to be done, right? So you take a RPA system that takes the process through multiple steps, and then you embed AI into specific tasks like finding out images, sensing intent of a customer. When the customer is coming online on a chatbot, right, you find the intent. Based on the intent, you suggest certain solutions, right? So these are the areas where you subtly embed AI into the RPA system, right? That is where we recommend companies, especially the SMEs, especially the large enterprises with the legacy systems, to get started, right? That is the good starting point where these two systems come together. And yeah, a second example I would like to give is, we have this large IT services firm based in India. So what do? Is they get a lot of these IT tickets, right? One of our customers, what they have done is they have developed, it started off as a process automation system
Yes.
where an IT ticket comes, certain keywords is wrong,
I think we again have another glitch.
can you find a pattern, and then can you proactively fix it, right? That is the kind of thing where AI can really help RPA.
So you're looking at identifying certain patterns in a stream of data. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, you talked about a critical part of hyper automation, which is the data ingestion part. So that's where you have this unstructured data or images or pictures or invoices need to be scanned and converted to digital. So that's another part of the toolbox, hyper automation toolbox. Thanks, Venkat. So when you talk to customers, right, and you see this adoption of AI in enterprises, there are certain challenges and roadblocks. So what have you seen in terms of challenges that enterprises see in adoption of AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mr. Sunil touched upon few of that, right? So the primary challenge when you start something new on the drawing board is, hey, is there a business sense to it, right? Is there like, are we doing a toy project, or like, is there a business outcome to the project? No, are we like aiming for improved customer experience, measurable improvement in customer experience, improved revenues, decreased cost, right, or increased productivity? So when you have a business problem to solve, that's the first tick mark I would advise, right? And then the second is, technologically speaking, right, these AI projects require huge amount of data, right? Getting the data and then training the system. The training part of AI requires lots of the data, right? So that is where many of the companies face challenges. One of our customers, SaaS company, they have the very same solution for the GST, right? When they kind of rolled out the system to multiple customers, in the first go, it didn't work well. The customers weren't happy. They were like, oh no, we expected miracles out of AI, right? Then they had to go and explain, hey, it gets better over a period of time, right? Like it takes 6 months, 1 year of training for the system to get better, right? So the data availability is a big issue. I think now it's getting slightly better with new algorithms that requires less amount of data. But then once you fix these two, right, then more or less, then the third comes, hey, do we have enough skill and manpower in your organization to do this? If you don't have, I would recommend, you go with players like your companies out there, Big Little Innovation, and then the industry leader. the AI path is there, Mr. Manish is there in the panel, right? So you go with one of these established software that has an element of AI embedded into this already, right? That would be a good starting point. And then you see how the results are. And then from there, you can do your own stuff.
Thank you, Venkat. One, for just outlining a couple of things which are really critical. I think any project, whether it's hyper automation or AI, business outcomes should really be the focus, right? I mean, that's something that I understand. And second reason I want to thank you is you took my company name and UiPath at the same breath, which is amazing. That's where we want to get. But thank you so much for doing that as well, along with UiPath. So coming to Manish, hey, Manish, it would be really great to know how. See, you've actually been in automation anywhere, and you've spent a lot of time in the space of RPA and automation, right? I'd love to hear, and I think the audience would love to hear how this technology has really evolved from specifically RPA, right? And then how is UiPath actually looking at hyperautomation technologies as a product to scale RPA? If you can just show us the journey, that'll be great.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nivedita, and good afternoon, everyone. So, first of all, I must tell you the fact that I've been privileged enough to see this category evolving,
Yep.
6.5 years, close to 6.5 years. And, when I returned back from Bay Area. So as a technologist, it was very hard for me to believe that this technology will, be what it is today, in terms of success and all. And it basically started with, the screen, the workflow automation, screen scraping and all, small work getting automated. Typically what a macro does, macro does. Then over the period of time, we saw it moving to, more towards the UI automation, wherein, we were at one point in time, the companies were struggling to even find the right coordinates for the UI automation. And that got, improved over a period of time. And then we moved to the UI automation part of it. And then eventually we saw that, what everyone talked about, sort of hyper automation, the use of technologies like AI, ML, it got integrated with the tool. And till now, we've been calling it as, a kind of tool, not like a platform as such, and technologies like computer vision, NLP, AI fabric, all those things were getting integrated with the, with the entire platform. So today, in the last 6.5 years, I've seen the tool, which is basically the core automation, the fundamental automation, and which the basic purpose of that automation was to automate the mundane, repetitive task, and just to get some benefit out of it. The initial expectation was definitely in terms of cost reduction, productivity, efficiency, all those stuff. Today, the expectations of enterprises have changed, because it is now they are looking at end-to-end automation. So if you look at the automation journey, a part of automation was like, you'll have a business analyst responsible for process mining, task mining. Then you have the core automation, which some of these digitally native companies were doing all these years. And then you have the insights into what is the business impact that your automation has created. Now, this entire end-to-end automation has happened by way of hyper automation, what Gartner typically calls it today. And the tool, what it used to be called earlier, has now become a platform, especially at UiPath, which basically takes care of right from planning to insight stage of the automation. So that's where the tool has evolved over a period of time, and in the process, we have seen customer benefiting, good delight, employee delights and all those stuff. So these are the ways the industry is kind of shaping up, and the way the tool has evolved in the last 6.5 years. And today it is called a hyper automation platform. At UiPath, we've been constantly researching, innovating, evolving, integrating every aspect of automation into the platform.
Yeah, I think there's no other way to handle it other than make it a platform, right? I mean, because you got so many different components to it, and you have to make it customizable, and you have to take it to multiple customers, and each one has to be, configured based on the customer. So I understand that. So Manish, this hyper automation technology, which is also called intelligent automation by others, and some other people have more fancy words for it. How has the customer reception been to it? What I would like to know is, you've built the platform, but how is the customer reception, and what is UiPath actually doing to increase the adoption of your platform with your customers?
Great question. So, if I have to categorize my customers, I categorize them into two broad categories. The first one is are the companies who started their digital journey long ago, and I call them digitally native company. Started with core automation, core RPA automation, and their aspirations have grown up over a period of time because they realized in order to scale their automation factory, they need to have a portion of the automation life cycle also need to be automated. Not just being done by the individual because it takes time. Like with task mining and process mining, you can just create a queue of the processes and tasks that needs to be automated, which was earlier done by human on the floor.
Right.
Even the tool can take care of it, the platform can take care of it. And some companies which who started their journey a bit late, and they are still trying to simplify their core automation practice or exercise, and they are slowly moving towards the hyper automation platform. So the companies, so see, the innovation is largely the function of the customer needs. That's what I really believe in,
Yeah.
And so that's how the innovation got driven at UiPath. And we heard from customers that, okay, if this portion of automation cycle can be automated, what are the ways to do it and all? So we took that, we integrated process mining, task mining into our platform. Then, analytics, AI fabric into the platform so that bots can work as close as human. Bot can be as close as human. So, I mean, in the last few years, we have been just hearing customers, getting feedback from partners, their business problems, and trying to integrate that with the tool by way of innovation. So the reception is great. I mean, digitally native companies, they are on, on their entire automation journey. I mean, they are totally embracing our especially our 20.10 release, which is a true reflection of hyper automation platform or intelligent automation, whatever you call it. And we are seeing great success in the marketplace.
Well, that's really good to hear. I'd like to go back to Mr. Sunil here. So now that you've heard a little bit about what UiPath is doing, and there's a lot of development around hyper automation, if you really wanted to drive end-to-end process transformation, how would you envision the automation journey in Dodla Dairy from RPA to, say, hyper automation? And as a customer, what are the challenges and concerns that you would like vendors like UiPath and maybe even my company address?
So to start with, I think what little we have done is on UiPath by using one of the vendors as what we are doing now. But from an operations point of view, when we sit and start thinking of doing something, there are broadly three categories which comes in, which also Venkat touched upon, is basically setting our expectation and making business sense for what we are doing. So it starts off with defining our requirements and having a valid rationale behind it. Because at some point of time, it either becomes a fancy saying that we have done this, therefore I should do this, or there is no, the rationale starts to weaken. So to be very clear on what we want to do, why we are doing it, and to get that going, I think people like Manish, when they explain what it is or how do we go about it, it makes it more useful for us. The second thing when it comes to implementation is to get the buy-in, right? The domain knowledge of what, when we set the rationale behind it, the person who's doing it has to be aware of the domain we are in, understand our problems. And from our side, our own people must also be well aware of what the tech means. It sometimes goes, it's like, the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. I have no clue. I sit on the top of it and expect miracles to happen without having the base understanding of how it should happen, right? So the question then comes is who is to take the lead, right? Is supposed to be the vendor is supposed to educate us, or we are supposed to learn from somewhere and then graduate by getting people. That is becoming challenging, right? Where does the learning path start with? Like when I'm listening to you guys on a seminar, I learn about hyper automation. I learn about what you were showing us, or whatever things can be done on process. But for a majority, vast majority, to get that learning on a more, let's say, commercial or a more more easier manner is going to be challenging. Yes, we know we have internet, we can find out, we can do. But the marketing of these technologies in a more digestible manner has to be the challenge, because invariably what happens is the decision makers will always be more outdated than the newer generation that comes in. Now, if I'm sitting here, which I'm older, trying to catch up with something new, I'll say, but only last year we spent something on this, so why are we doing something more? Right? So to understand the value of this is going to be challenging, and explaining that to the people below. My bigger worry is at a later stage, like today we automate a process, people become so dependent. Sometimes businesses are beginning to be driven by the process automation we have, because guys are now worried that if something new has to be introduced, I don't know what to do, I have to reinvent the whole wheel, go back to the vendor, start doing it. It shouldn't become a hindrance for the business when it changes rapidly. Right? Look at us also, when something is evolving, we do something new. Even if you go to a simple SAP when we implemented it, now just because to create a vendor code, I have to go through a whole process list, and the sales guys are like, we are small, our vendors are all small people, right? To be able to define that, be careful about it, and not, common sense shouldn't be lost, because we become sometimes too overtly dependent on the system, that people tend to, if you give it as a nice, colorful red, green, yellow, they don't even want to understand why the red or green or yellow has come. The business might have changed on the back end. And to get that explanation, right, you can call it your code, your software, or whatever it is. But to keep it as a simple workflow for people to understand that tomorrow when some change has to happen, where is it and what is needed to be done. So I get scared. Right? Am I overly dependent on my vendor? Is the stickiness so high that if the vendor holds me to ransom tomorrow, where do I go? To sort of get over that fear as an operator, we have to be careful. I mean, tech is becoming expensive, right? Earlier, when I looked at it as a per liter cost, tech was nowhere in the cost thing, right? But now tech has slowly creeped up. It is a reasonable cost for us to keep investing and reinvesting.
Right.
So the cost in consideration, not getting worried about the vendor, our guys being comfortable with what it is and giving value to it, is where the challenge will come.
Wow, very succinctly put, actually. I think we're actually pretty much done with time, but I have one last question. Manish, how is UiPath actually making some of these concerns, addressing some of these concerns that Sunil is bringing up? Very quickly, if you can answer that'll be great.
I think, I totally agree with what Sunil commented on. There is a gap, in terms of communication about what we are doing as a technology company in terms of innovation and communicating that to our end customers, and especially how it can help the end customers. In order to address that, we have set up a lot of enablement team at UiPath. The task of the team is to first understand what all innovations have happened within the company, and then take it to the customers, and help them understand how these new set of innovations can help them. We have set up an industry and solutions group, which basically works with, a healthcare industry or manufacturing industry. We have created tons of use cases, how, our tool or automation in general can help them. So I would, and that is happening 24/7, in terms of, in terms of email communication, in terms of customer calls, in terms of webcasts, whatever you think of, So that is being addressed because we realize that gap, that it is not getting communicated properly to the end customers, and that is being done. But good point, well taken, because that is also a fundamental to the fact that whatever we innovate, it has to be consumed as well by the customer, and it has to be communicated as well. So we are doing that we are working towards that.
Thank you. I think we're at the end of the session. To summarize, just want to put together a couple of points that we need to take away. RPA, along with the suite of technologies, is needed to drive holistic transformation, is what we all understand, right? And RPA is a very good gateway technology to get there. And a closer engagement with the customer is needed for the adoption of hyper automation and to see the results. We really don't have time for questions now, but thank you so much to all the panelists for taking the time out and spending a few precious minutes of yours with TiE Global Summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nivedita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You can stay in the same call.
I can? Okay.
Yeah, you can stay in the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.